Hi everyone, this Illustrator tutorial is going to cover blending, which is one of the commands that Illustrator allows for you to use. What blend does is takes two objects, so I'm going to draw a rectangle and a circle, and I'm going to reverse them so that they have an outline rather than a fill, and I'm going to give them kind of a thicker stroke. I'm also going to change the color of one of them to black. What it allows for me to do, I'm going to click on the blend tool, I'm going to show you and then we'll talk about how to do it, is take two objects and blend them together, right? So it takes the properties of the first one and the properties of the second one and creates some sort of blend between the two. And there are ways to adjust what that blend looks like. So I can make something that has a series of steps in between it. So I can see, from a rectangle to a curve and all of the different steps in between. I can adjust that to just a shorter number of steps or a larger number of steps. And I can go in and start moving things around. So I can change what this looks like. I can reverse which one's in the front and which one's in the back and so on and so forth. So now that we've just kind of seen just generally what a blend does, let's talk a little bit about how to make it. So it can be between anything that are shapes, right? It can't be between letters unless you convert them to shapes, which we'll talk about doing in a few minutes. So I've got my rectangle and my ellipse. I'm going to click on the blend tool, which is here. The shortcut for it is W. You can see when I hover over an object now a little, I've got a different looking cursor. When I hover over an object, it gives me a little X. And then when I hover over the second one, it gives me a different type of X. So click here. For some reason it's not cooperating. There we go. I'm not sure why it was being obnoxious like that. Let's try it one more time. So here and here. Click and click. Oh, guess I just wasn't giving it long enough. Okay, so the first one that you select, so I'm just undoing, I'm gonna go back to the pink and then the black. The first one that you select is gonna be in the back. The second one that you select is gonna be in the front. And if you want to start controlling some of the options for the blend, with it selected, go back and double click on the blend tool and it'll bring up the blend options dialog box. You've got three different options for spacing, so smooth color is what we're looking at. I'm going to turn on preview. Specified steps lets you choose a number of steps to have in between. So again, you could do 2 or 4 or 200. And specified distance gives you, at every 0.125 or 1/8 of an inch in between, you can start seeing what that looks like. So I'm going to change it to 0.5 inches or 1 inch. And also you can choose whether you align it to the page so things are kind of aligned vertically or whether they're aligned to the path. Right now our path is a straight line, so it doesn't really matter, but we're going to go in and change that in a couple of minutes. So for now we're going to orient it to the page and hit OK. There are a few things that you can do in addition to those basics with the blend before you turn it into individual objects, if that's what you want to do. You can, with your direct selection tool, go in and select the path with the blend or the spine of the blend and move it around, make it shorter, make it longer, make these things closer together. The current blend is set to specified distance, so if I make the line shorter, I'm having less distance between them and less steps. I can also find additional blend options under Object and Blend. Here I can reverse front to back, which puts the pink square in the front and the black box in the back. So you can see reverse front to back, now they're reversed. And I can also reverse the spine, which does the opposite. It reverses the direction that they go in, right? So the spine is the kind of line diagonal between the two objects, and the reverse front to back reverses the shapes. So I can do that. I can also adjust the kind of spine and make it not just a straight line. I can start going in and adjusting it as if it were a kind of curve like we've done before. I'm going to stretch this out. I can add anchor points to it. So under here, I can add an anchor point along the curve and then adjust that. I can start making this thing crazy. You know, I'm not sure exactly the application for something like a crazy line that transforms from a circle to a rectangle or ellipse to a rectangle, but you can imagine there are kind of different graphic possibilities for it. Again, if you double click on the blend tool when you have the blend selected, you can go in and kind of adjust the preview for it. What I was going to show you really quickly is if I turn this to specified steps and make it 12 and preview it, the difference between the orientation to the page or the orientation to the path, you can start to see the difference between the two. It will take the path as a kind of a center point and then adjust the line so that it's normal to the path. We'll talk more about normal dimensions or directions when we get into Rhino, but for now you can see the kind of difference between the two. And then lastly, if you want to turn this from kind of an interactive blend into a series of individual objects that you can individually adjust, you want to use the Object and Expand tool, and that will let you Object, Expand, okay, and then you can release them. So these guys are grouped together right now. So you can see that it turned from a blend into a series of objects that are grouped together. If I ungroup them, Control-Shift-G, Control-Shift-G, I can get to the point where I have just one object individually selectable at a time. Right. So then I can go in and start controlling them separately. You know, for some reason I want to turn this end one into, these end two into solids rather than outlines. I can do that. I can start playing around with it in that way. So that's it for blending for now.